Okay, now that we've picked our spot to build our camp and build a campfire, we're going to go look around and see if we can find tinder, kindling, and firewood. As you walk around, we're going to be looking to see where we can find our tinder, kindling, and firewood. And as I look over here, I'm looking at a down tree, dead, and it looks like we'll be able to find enough tinder, kindling, and firewood for our fire. One of the first things we need, obviously, to build a fire is some tinder. I'm looking down here, you'll see some tinder on the ground. Tinder can be newspaper, garbage, can be lint from your dryer, can be gum balls like this laying on the forest floor, birch bark here, and also dried leaves. So these are some of the things you can have. Plus, if you prepare in advance, there's cotton balls that are filled with Vaseline, and they're excellent for starting a fire. So these are some of the things it's nice to have. When we came to our site, we looked around and came up with and looking for some kindling and some firewood, and we brought some of this. This is some of the stuff we brought around. Looking around the area, we brought this, and from this, what we did was break that kindling. Kindling, here's a pile of kindling. Pile of kindling, and kindling can be pencil lead thin, or a little bit larger, almost the size of your finger. Next, we have, if you're starting to get some fuel wood, what we need to gather is some slightly larger pieces. Those pieces can be an inch, the size of your finger, the size of your wrist. And then once we have gathered enough of that, we look at our major firewood, which can be wrist size, arm size, and larger, as to get our fire built a little bit later. The amount of kindling you find or you get for your fire depends on how big a fire you're going to build and what it is you're going to be using your fire for. If it's a small cooking fire, you need less tinder, kindling, and fuel. If it's a bigger fire, you're going to need more fuel. So as you look down here, you can see we have some kindling here. The kindling is for starting the fire, basically starting the fire, and then you add larger pieces, and then as your fire progresses and gets bigger, and getting into the cooking phase where you want to get ashes, you're going to be adding more and more of the larger logs that we have here. Okay, now that we're going to build our first fire, let's build our first fire, which is our teepee fire. And teepee fire is good for warmth, for cooking, and is the most commonly used built fire in scouting today. If we're going to build a fire, the best way to do this environmentally is to dig a pit, and that pit should be about 6 to 8 inches deep, and we're going to start building that pit right now. Looks like it's going to work fine. Okay, we built ourselves a little pit to build our fire in, our little teepee fire in here. We've taken the earth and built a berm around the fire so that when it's all over, we can take the coal, fill it in like this fire was never here, and it'd be completely environmentally free. But the fire really needs what? It needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and it needs heat. Now we're going to supply the heat and the fuel. The oxygen, if we build it in that pit, you're not going to get much oxygen down low. So what we have to do is built a little trench here so that the air can come through on here and deliver the oxygen to make sure that fire continues to burn. Okay, the first thing we need to do to build our fire, we've got our pit. Now we have to get our tinder set. So one of the things I'm going to use is some birch bark, which really works very, very well. So I'm going to place some birch bark at the very bottom. Enough. And just to make sure, what I'm going to do is place a little Vaseline soaked cotton ball. So I'm going to put that in here, right there. Then what we need to do is build a little teepee out of our kindling. I'm going to take pieces of wood, kindling wood. I'll get the smallest pieces first. Smallest pieces I can find first. And start to build a teepee. I can use the larger pieces, stick them in so that they have something to grab onto. I can get another piece the other side here. Oops, maybe. That's not working too good. I'll take another piece here, like this, and another piece here. So basically I've started a teepee. Now I need to start adding smaller twigs around the teepee to get that teepee going. A little bit more wood in here. Right now, what do we have? Well, we have tinder in here. We have some oxygen that's coming in here. We haven't lit it yet. So we have firewood. We're getting our firewood with tinder. Take our small pieces first, because they're the ones that are going to catch fire first. We have a teepee that looks sort of like a teepee. That's the whole concept. And now, once we think we have enough small tinder in here, we're going to attempt to light that fire. Let's see what happens. Okay, now it's time to start our fire. Now you can do this obviously the hard way, or you can use a lighter like I'm using. And we're going to light the tinder first, which is, right now I'm lighting the birch bark in various spots around the fire. It's important that you get that light around the fire, not just in one spot. Now the object is to watch this fire, see how it develops, and be ready to add more and more fuel as necessary. So I'm getting ready here to break up enough fuel, bigger fuel than we had before, so that we can put it and make it as a bigger fire. I'm going to start adding some wood now in a teepee type fashion. As you see, the fire is starting to pick up, and as the larger pieces start to burn, we can start adding more and more larger pieces. Say something from this side.
So now we can see that the fire's actually burned down into some nice coals, and a bigger bed of coals like that would be good for cooking. And the sprinkle method actually works better for dampening a fire and putting it out than just pouring the entire bucket on all at once.
Okay. We're going to look, and we just finished building a teepee fire. Now we're going to look at building a long fire. A long fire is excellent to cook on. It's especially good for cooking with a patrol, because on a long fire you can cook 2, 3, or 4 different parts of it, so that you can cook for 4, 5, or 6 people. So that's very important. Now the first thing you need to do is to dig a pit 6 inches by 8 inches, 6 to 8 inches deep, and 12 to 16 inches wide, and 2 to 3 feet long. So we're going to start doing that right now. We have an area that we're going to be digging this pit, and I'm going to start here, starting to dig this pit.
Okay, we've started the long fire lay. You see we've dug it out, and we put in some tinder between the logs lining the pit. We've got paper towels, we've got dryer lint, we've got birch bark, and we've actually got some dried fruiting bodies from a sweet gum tree. You can think of them as sort of like pine cones. So we've got enough tinder in there, and pretty soon we'll begin to put in the kindling.
Okay, we're going to start adding our kindling to this fire right now, to this fire lay. And I'm putting in some kindling. We got some pencil thin kindling. We got some little larger pieces. And we'll end up building this fire lay. Okay, take a look. This is our fire lay. For a start, we have our nice logs. We have a space between. We have tinder and kindling here. We're going to start lighting it now to get this fire going. So we'll come in here, like that, like that, like this in here, like this in here. Okay, as the fire starts to build up, so we make sure that we keep it going, we're going to have to keep adding some larger and larger pieces of wood. So we're going to be adding this on our fire. This little section going here if I can.
So here's a hint for you guys: that when you go to make your own video, make sure that you don't do what I do and stand downwind of the fire. It's kind of smoky.
Right now that fire is going pretty nice. So it's building up, and we're going to be building coals up here pretty soon. So we're going to be adding more and more bigger sticks. This damn fire over here to go.
Well, that was a successful lighting, and it looks like we've got the fire to the point where it is self-sustaining. There's enough heat in there to bring the fuel that's in there to ignition temperature, and all the new fuel that may be added will be quickly brought to ignition temperature and add to the burn. You can see here that we've added some bigger pieces crossways across the logs lining the pit. That way they come to ignition temperature and begin to burn without compressing the fire and the coals underneath, and eventually they will burn out in the center and collapse into the center of the fire, adding to the coals forming there. So we've got this set up now so that we can actually do some cooking on it. You've got the flames at the right. You've actually got some hot coals down there to the left under the pot. Pot has water in it. We're going to boil the water and cook ourselves up some ramen noodles for lunch. We put the top on the pot to help the water come to boiling temperature quicker. And you'll notice we have a stick through the bail at the top of the pot. Is a little trick to keep from burning your fingers when you go to remove the lid. You'll just reach down, grab the stick, and you can lift the bail off without burning yourself. There's some really nice coals worked up under there. great for cooking. Oh, we got a nice rolling boil now. Time to put in the ramen noodles.
That's that.
Oh yeah, ramen noodles, baby.
Can't ask for anything better than this.
Yeah, really nice coals. Really nice. You can see how the liner logs have begun to burn on the insides, adding heat to the center. That keeps the coals and any added fuel in the center hot. Great coals there. So as part of putting the fire out after we're done using it, we've moved the liner logs out of the pit, and we've spread the center coals out to give them a chance to cool down a bit. And later we'll sprinkle them with water to make sure that they're dead out. And just like for the teepee fire, we're going to sprinkle water on the coals, the long fire, and on the liner logs to make sure the fire is dead out before we fill the trench back in and do our leave no trace. So as part of filling in the trench, we are burying the liner logs. Okay, so the dead out coals and the liner logs have been buried. Now we'll smooth the area out and drag leaves over it so that people won't even know that we've been here. So equally important with building a fire and having a fire is making sure that when folks come along, they don't know that a fire was ever here. So one of the last things you want to do after fire building is your leave no trace component. We hope that you found this instructional video to be informative and entertaining. We hope that it will help you in the future to build your campfires for cooking, fellowship, warmth in cold weather, and if need be, signaling. Best of luck to you, Scouts and Scouters.